Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching, a St. Louis City SC podcast in our fifth episode of the season here, Justin, chugging along. We're now officially in a match day week. Feels absolutely nuts to be in this situation right now, but we're marching. You're just days away now from the home opener, having the Colorado Rapids come to Energizer Park to take on the boys in the forever City Red. We didn't even put the kid on here to talk about, Justin, but a lot has happened, obviously, since we last chatted with you all. But Justin, welcome back. We missed you last week, and I wanted to tee you up with our first kind of segment for the show with what are you watching? What have you been up to? Where have you been, man?
I haven't been watching a whole lot except for my computer screen. Busy season is still a grind. But, I mean, Jake, the only thing that I was going to say I'm watching Severance. The episode last week was fine. The one thing that I would watch, and I would say everybody should watch if you haven't already, it was perfect Sunday night stuff. SNL 50, the 50th anniversary of SNL. It was an absolute star-studded cast, not only on the stage, but in the stands or in the crowd. And they did like a give and take with the crowd members as well. And Peyton Manning was on there, Kim Kardashian, just people from all over, I guess, music, movies, sports, everything. So it was hilarious. You got a nice little teary eye with Adam Sandler and the song that he made up for it, but it was awesome. What about you?
It's on my list. I got to watch it. Have not gotten around to it yet because I've been enthralled, man. This Four Nations has been incredible to watch. I mean, as an American, I don't know if there's any more American you can feel than just beating the literal crap out of Canada on their own turf as well. So the last couple of days I've been kind of really enjoying that. And then now knowing that we have a final set for Thursday to go play them again, but here at home, it just stokes me up, dude. If anyone's not watching, I really encourage you to check that out on Thursday night. It's going to be epic. There were hits, fights galore. Obviously, we beat the brakes off them as well on the scoreboard. So while we're just kind of quickly in the theme of hockey, Just, I know we're a soccer podcast. We did make a mention, at least maybe a week or so ago now about my brothers, Nick and Luke, who will be joining us here right now live on stage. And they've started puck watching. So, boys, welcome to the show. You're on Ball Watching, puck watching. You guys get the similarities. You might see a little bit of similarities here if you're looking on YouTube or anywhere you're watching the stream right now. But Nick, Luke, welcome to the show. How's puck watching treating you so far?
Fellas, it's going well. It's great to be here. Humbled
to be here. I feel like so Jake is the true brother of these guys, but I feel like I could fit.
I can see it.
I can't see it with Luke's hair right now, but I feel like I could fit with at least Nick.
No, if you're not seeing on video right now, you got to check out Luke's hair. It's definitely something to behold.
It's a sight. You don't need to.
But Luke, I guess I'll start with you. Tell me about puck watching. For any of our listeners that are joint or co-City Blues fans, we talk a little bit about the Blues. We've had Rob Thomas on the podcast before. We've had Chris Zimmerman, on an interview for Hope for the Holidays. So we've got some crossover. But for folks that are wanting to, stay in the know with the Blues, tell them about your podcast.
Right. Yeah. So thanks, Jake. It's been an honor to be on here. But I would say for puck watching, we just released our third episode and with John Kelly as our first guest, and he was amazing. We had about a 40-minute interview with him, just talking Blues and a little bit of his story as well. But he had some really good thoughts just about the current Blues team that we're kind of dealing with that is in a bit of dire straits right now, not sure what's going on, but he offered a very good perspective on it and a professional perspective. And that's the goal of our podcast here, is that Nick and I aren't hockey players. We're not prior ones, but we've been watching the Blues for a long time, and we want to try and get as many professional perspectives like JK and other guests as much as possible in the pod.
Yeah, and I see that similarity in I think how Justin and I run the show as well. And so Nick, I guess maybe elaborate for me on that and sort of how you and Luke, want to go into the future with, the types of content you all provide, how often you'll be doing so, and maybe any future interviews or ideas you have in terms of kind of keeping things fresh for the run through.
Yeah, no, we want to go weekly. So we've been going every Sunday so far. We recorded the John Kelly interview a couple of days prior to Sunday, but released it on Sunday. And as far as, how we want it to go and look, I have the opportunity to go to a good handful amount of Blues games every year, every season. So I I'm gonna, and Luke as well. I know he's in Boston, but get an opportunity to go live and provide that outlook to the listeners and subscribers. I think that's going to be fun. Also getting people like John Kelly. You guys already kind of beat us to it with Rob and Chris Zimmerman, but we're hoping to get people like that, of that stature, as we get more embedded into the brand and puck watching itself. So we're super excited. I think we have a lot of good guests coming on in the next few months. And Luke and I will be tuning in actually live a couple weeks from now too, when he's back for spring break. So we should have a lot of good content coming your guys' way.
Yeah, and I was going to say, for anybody that's like, oh, the Blues are kind of having a down year, this is a fun way to get it a spin up. These guys got some spicy takes. Hop in. They're very good about responding to the comments as well. If you haven't listened to the interview, it's absolutely awesome right now, just kind of opening up and seeing behind the curtain of what someone that's truly a part of the Blues organization has been for a long time. These guys do a great job of just keeping it conversational with them, and I think they've learned pretty well from their older brother here.
Yeah. Final thing, boys, Blues playoffs, yes, no, and tell us where we can find you all on social media and on podcasts.
Yeah, I'm going to say Blues playoff, no. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. But, yeah, you can find us at Puck Watching STL, X, YouTube, Instagram, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all under the same name. Hope you guys can tune in, because I feel like the audience that you have here, Jake and Justin, are very similar to the ones I think we can attract here for the Blues community as well.
Will Luke be coming live from Boston for US Canada?
No. If I had $1,200 to my name, I would gladly. But
put it on the LLC.
Yeah, we'll start a GoFundMe for you, buddy.
Maybe.
Well, thank you both for hopping on here. And again, if you all our ball watching listeners have any hockey, bleeding blue, or any interest in the sport of watching this team, these guys, I can vouch, have some good debates, some good discussions. You might see some neck veins popping out if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter when they're streaming live. So encourage you to check out Puck Watching STL. Nick, Luke, I'll see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jake.
Gentlemen.
Justin.
See you guys. All right, Justin, we've got a bunch of people in the room now. We've been talking about doing a season preview. I'm going to give one more plug, and I promise you all are going to love this, and we love bringing it to you. But, you see in the upper right hand of your corner, if you're watching us on video right now, presented by our friends at Hoffman Brothers this year in 2025, and same for 2024. And we talk about how incredible these guys are when it comes to all services under the roof. And even last week, I talked about how they're donating a portion of all sales during the months of February and March to Stray Rescue of St. Louis. I mean, if that doesn't sell you enough, let me tell you about something that might. Is anyone looking for tickets for the home opener this season? Yeah, the one in just a couple of days. Yeah, it might be a little chilly, but are you looking to get inside Energizer Park and escape those hefty ticket prices, sellers fees on the resale market, or you can't get the right deal on the Facebook Marketplace? Hoffman Brothers is letting us give away 2 free tickets to the home opener on Saturday. And it is so easy to enter and do this. So there's 2 things, all you got to know. 1, make sure you're following Hoffman Brothers, HOFFMANN Brothers, on both Facebook and Instagram. That's number 1. And 2, make sure you like the Instagram post that we put up right after recording this show. I promise you it'll be right after. And if you like that post and you follow them on Facebook and Instagram, you will be entered to win 1 entry per person, and that will be for 2 tickets to the home opener. These entries will be closed on the 20th, this Thursday at noon, and they'll draw the winner on their own Instagram story at 12:30 Central Time. So if you want to get into Energizer Park, experience all the amazing things that they have to offer, whether that's new food, Justin, we can talk about that a little bit here in the episode, or just the ambiance and the overall vibe that Matt Seaback and team have created. It's just incredible, all the rituals that we have. It's a free, man. Like, just put your hat, hat in the ring in the hat, put your name in the hat or whatever in the ring, and make sure that you are a part of this contest. It's so easy to get entered, and it's free. And you can get into Energizer Park and win this history, baby.
This is something that the Hoffman Brothers, I think we've talked about them a ton in the past season, but these giveaways and things that they're doing in the community are huge. If you have not had a chance to make it to a city game, much less in the last, 6 months, considering we haven't had a game in forever. Yeah, it's going to be a little cold outside. City is going to be bringing the heat. You're not going to want to miss the home opener with the new City Forever kit. Get there. For anybody that didn't catch all the details that we just talked through, we'll be posting it on that Instagram story or on that Instagram post that we are doing with Hoffman Brothers. We'll post it on the story. We'll keep people up to date. Go and like the post, follow them on both Instagram and Facebook, and go win some free tickets.
Oh, you love it. You love it when a partner is just doing everything across the board. So shout out to Hoffman Brothers. Make sure you get entered to win those 2 free tickets to the home opener in just a couple of days now at Energizer Park. Justin, let's get into the meat of this. Fortunately, we're not going to have to waste or spend, whatever you want to call, too much time on preseason because we don't know much with the last game. It was behind closed doors against the Quakes, and we lost 2-1, apparently. Who cares? We don't literally know nothing else about it. But preseason kind of ends in your, I believe, 2-2-2 record. I didn't hear, Justin, any new injuries to report coming out of this or updates. But preseason is officially over, right? Now you're in the lead up in the season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we might have ended 3-2-1, but again, it doesn't matter because no one cares because it really is just a trial, essentially. I mean, we even had that one dude do a trial for us. It's really just get the legs underneath you, and start playing against people that aren't your teammates that you've been seeing for weeks. And no, I haven't heard of any new injuries. If anything, we've had guys back on the mend. When you look at Celio, I know he said that quote over, I think it was on Sunday, where he was just like, I'm starving like a dog.
Yeah.
So this guy is ready to come out and compete. It's just exciting. And that's what preseason is supposed to be, like a ramp up. And that's exactly what it was. We got no one injured. Guys got a little bit more fit, and we're moving forward into the season.
Cannot wait. And moving into the season, let's get into the preview now. So we are guaranteed 35 games this season. That's the bare minimum. Your 34 regular season games and at least 1 U.S. Open Cup game. That is the only cup competition we are participating in this 2025 season. Hopefully a lot more of those U.S. Open Cup games if we continue to rise and climb the ladder there. But that is all that's guaranteed. And so what we did here for you all is we did something similar last year. And I think the team itself, the club itself, does this in terms of measuring performance and kind of breaking the season. It's so big, right? Out into manageable kind of blocks. So we broke it out into 5 blocks this go around. So 35 games. What makes sense? Let's do 7-game blocks. The first block, just commences this Saturday. And what this is going to feature is the time between February 22nd and April 5th. It's only MLS matches. And we have 3 home games in that time, 4 away games. Some notable things to kind of think about in this block. We are going to San Diego for their home opener. That should be a riot. I mean, if I had to imagine, I see that the fan base and how they showed out so far, it should be pretty electric. We are playing the Galaxy, current cup holders. We're playing Seattle, current probably projected contenders in the West from everything that I'm seeing. We're playing Philadelphia away, Carnell reunited there. And we're starting our, 1-1, our first of 2 matches against Austin. And I feel like in Austin, there's just always fireworks in our matches with them, and there's always goals. And then finally, we end this one at Sporting Kansas City. So it's quite a block. There's a lot of kind of big headline-grabbing games in this block. For me, it makes you really excited because I think we do start with a bang.
Absolutely. I think it's an exciting listing of teams. If I'm going to pick one out of that, though, Jake, it's going to be Austin. I think that for some reason, obviously, when we started our inaugural season with them, an incredible bang there. There's always a ton of goals, and they just spend an absolute buttload of money in the transfer window as well. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that Austin game. Block 2, you have labeled here as the Wild West in the Open Cup again. So this is from mid-April to mid-May. We have MLS regular season and U.S. Open Cup, which we have 1 game, obviously, as you already mentioned, with the potential for more as we win. Something really big to note here, Jake, which I was surprised to see, 5 home games and 2 away. So this is something good where, hey, can we get through that first stretch that you already talked about? Yeah. And then can we get back home and win some games? And this is huge that it's at home because we do have shorter rest in this time period as well, because between Seattle and San Diego, we do have our U.S. Open Cup game. And then we also have San Diego and Kansas City, which is a midweek game as well. So shorter rest there for the guys, but it is at home, so less travel. So hopefully a lot more rest in that shorter time frame as opposed to hopping on a flight, going out to LA, whatever. So some notables in this stretch. You have the Columbus Crew. That's obviously Aziel Jackson. And also our boy Patrick Schulte, who just signed a deal through 2027 with an option for 2028. Incredible for him. LAFC, the reigning number 1 in the West. We've yet to get a result against them, either home or away. Then we have Seattle, And then we have a TBD with the U.S. Open Cup, and then Sporting Kansas City again, which unfortunately ends the barbecue for 2025 in the middle of May, which is just absurdity.
It is. We've been so spoiled with that rivalry so far, and the fact that we're only playing twice this year like really bums me out. Like I totally get it with San Diego, but it does suck. But yeah, it's weird to have that. This block for me is again another one full of headlines and a lot of home time, which is great, and hopefully a chance for us to get our cup competition off on the right foot. This one really excites me too, and it's a lot of games packed into a month of time. I think it's the most packed kind of fixture congestion that we have, barring advancing pretty far in Open Cup. And we'll get into that when we get to block 3, 4, 5 here. So block 3, kind of like the midway point. And I actually went in here and said, this is a block for me. And same with block 4, which we'll get to, where I think we've got some points we can grab. And this is from the middle of May until the end of June. So we've got here all MLS matches. If we won our last U.S. Open Cup match, the round of 16 is from May 20 to 21, if we're still in it. So we could have an additional match sprinkled in here. But right now, that's 3 home matches, 4 away matches. About 1 week's rest between almost all games, except for one longer 11-day break between the Galaxy and Orlando. And then there's a midweek game at Houston for us. So some notables who are playing here. This is the Galaxy home game for us, which is always electric. I mean, if you were there last year, it was so much fun. I think it was our thesis for the season, especially the second or the last third of the season. Like it kind of showed what we were about and how we could compete with really anyone on our day with our newly reinforced squad. So we'll play them at home on a day game, even better. My Lord, a 3:30 sounds like wonderful. And then we have Orlando as well, who is, probably going to be a contender of somewhat, at least in the East. They were last year in that top kind of spread of the East. So I'm looking forward to playing them. But I don't write too many notables out here because it's, for me, a lot of Western opponents, which we have chances to beat on and collect points. So I think block 3 for me, and then we'll get into block 4, represent huge opportunities in kind of the mid to latter part of the season to just pile it up against your, I'm going to just, for lack of a better term, call it just maybe your lesser opposition, at least on paper for what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I know when you look at this, I remember I spent like hours our second season, like, oh, when do we have these real gaps? And like on average, is our schedule harder than everybody else? It's like, if you think about it, everybody kind of balances out. But I do think that block 3 and then going into block 4, where you say the heat of the summer is really where we can pick up some points, because we are not in the Leagues Cup, and that's when it kind of kicks off there. So from the July 5th to August 23rd range, we have the U.S. Open Cup, if we're still going, quarterfinals, but then we also have our MLS games where we have 3 home and 4 away. About a week between each of the games that we have within there, so extra rest really in there, especially between Minnesota and Nashville, because that's phase 1 of the Leagues Cup. So there has to be a little bit of a gap there. The MLS did way better in making sure that Leagues Cup isn't a full month and a half block. We're just going to see a little bit of an additional rest there for us. But notable games in this, not really much to talk about. You talk about FC Dallas, who got rid of Jesus Ferreira, but then picked up Lucho Acosta. And then you have Nashville and then Chicago with Mr. Greggy Berhalter and Tommy Barlow. So I'm excited for the Chicago game, Jake. It's one that I'm not going to be able to make it up to. I have a wedding that weekend, but getting up to Soldier Field and seeing the boys take on the Chicago Fire is going to be an awesome one.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool game to catch. And again, this is the longest block that you see besides the final block, which is spread out a lot because of the decision day. But this is, July 5th until August 23rd. So again, that Leagues Cup gives us a nice little break or buffer in there to maybe return some guys from injury or just get guys some much needed rest after, I'd say a pretty busy start to the early season, but you get into blocks 3 and 4. And again, I'm shouting it from the rooftops right now. I could be wrong, but we got a good mix of home and away games. And I think a lot of these, to me, feel winnable. And then we look in the block 5 now. Let's finish it out strong here, where you're in the end of August, the tail end of August, and you're midway through October when we hit decision day. So, here for us, it's again, all MLS matches. If you're in the semis or the final of US Open Cup, that would be September 16th to 17th and the final on October 1st, respectively, if we're still there. So 1 week's rest between all these games, pretty much 2 weeks rest between Austin and our closer at home for decision day against RSL. So good rest when you're looking at that for the run-in. And notables here, we have a brand new team we've never played before, and that's Montreal, which should be a nice matchup there. We do finish with some West teams that I think can probably give us some issues. LAFC being one of those, again, kind of been our bogey team. Austin, Texas, definitely projecting them to have a better season this year than they did last year. RSL, who I think is a little bit of an enigma after getting rid of Chicho Arango. We'll see how that fares for them. But it's going to be quite a season, quite a haul. That's 35 matches broken out into 5 blocks here. Justin, tell us about some of the news that's come out on the club on sort of a parallel, not necessarily sporting perspective, and take us a little bit of deviation before we get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, with that long of a season, you got to stay fueled. And what are you going to stay fueled with? Soul juice. No, just kidding. You got to stay fueled with the new things that are coming into City Park. We already had a little bit of a teaser from Carol and Kendall Betts on this for the new eateries that are coming in. So Pappy Smokehouse, Damn Fine Hand Pies, Bulliards, and Chicken Scratch. So these were handpicked by Gerard Kraft himself. So then you can also get a pork panini from Bulliards, some pulled rotisserie chicken sandwich from Chicken Scratch, buffalo chicken dip hand pie from Damn Fine Hand Pies, and burnt end sandwich from Pappy's. And then, Jake, I know that this food is all incredible and it can be a little pricey if you go there with your family. City is also introducing, and listen up here, a more family-friendly menu where they have a dedicated under $10 food stands, which will serve for family-friendly match day menus and affordable prices for all City fans. So obviously it can be a little pricey to get in there, and the food is all so delicious. It can be a little bit on the higher end, just like it is at your typical Cardinals or Blues games. But City is really looking out for the fans and trying to make an under $10 meal deal for them as well.
Yeah, I want to hit them just like the larger thing here quickly for me, Justin, because I see this, and again, it's innovation. You love to see it, especially in the food scene, which you just don't see really in any sports scene. But for me, it's listening, and it's options, and it's we hear you, so we do this, or we give you this option. And it's hard to say that for a lot of other professional franchises, that they might say all the right things, and some of you might even think that City says all the right things. But I do think for a good part, and this is just one example of that, they're listening, and they're actually making changes and trying to make the experience all the better for all types of fans, for families, and for everyone else that's going to attend these matches. So I love it. All the diversity in the food, it's always been a highlight for us. We win awards for it, and that they're continuing to evolve and iterate. So I definitely appreciate that, Justin. But thanks for bringing that update in for us. Let's pivot back here, Justin, to the personnel donning the Forever Red this year for City. Justin, we've had some shakeups. Basically, this whole department has really gotten a facelift since last season when I think about our strikers. And I think last year we bucketed just forwards into strikers. And I think I had to kind of flex it this year to think about it in, it's strikers and second strikers, where your strikers are probably like more your target men, and your second strikers kind of float around and support, that main striker or that target man, but they are equally as much a threat and just play a little bit of a different role, especially in Olaf's new system. So strikers for me heading into this season to keep an eye on, Justin. Obviously, Joao Klaus returns in what is probably the biggest season of his career for me at this point, to turn heads and to reaffirm our belief in him. Simon Betcher, who has installed so much belief in himself on our behalf already. We are all huge fans of his. And I think the other target guy for me in terms of maybe a solo striker or just plays the striker position is Caden Glover. Will you see more minutes for him this season? Is this another development year for him in City 2? Will he get some reps at striker? Maybe he gets minutes elsewhere. I'm not sure. But those are the strikers that I have before we go into second strikers. You got any thoughts there?
No, I would say I've kind of pulled together a couple stats, and we've mentioned it also on a couple different podcasts. But one thing to note for Betcher, obviously holds the record for the fastest 4 goals ever in MLS history. I think it's like 89 minutes. He had 4 goals for us just in the 9 games that he played for us. So tied for second on the team in just less than a third of the game. So something to really look out for. And like you said, Jake, I do think that this is going to have to be a huge season for Joao Klaus if you really want to be that guy going forward. And it's going to be, we've got a couple of guys like this. You've already mentioned Glover, and then where I know we'll touch on like Joyner, McSorley. Like there are some hungry young fellows coming up behind Mr. Old Klaus. But I do think that he's up for the task.
Yeah, no, I do too. My hope is that that's an internally solved situation, because I think you have guys in our second strikers that'll start us off on that could easily pivot potentially into that striker position. And more specifically, Toyshirt is the guy. You know, at this point, if you're going to trust, if the ball fell to anyone's foot in the 18 and you had to pick one player for that ball to land at, it's got to be Toyshirt. Maybe some might throw in Betcher, and I totally respect that as well. I wouldn't disagree or say you're wrong because of the hot hand, but Toyshirt is a goal scorer, a proven goal scorer at the levels that I've seen him play at MLS. He looks magnificent. Unfortunately, did not see much of him in the preseason, you know, the run-in for preseason due to some health concerns. So I'm not expecting to see him off the bat, but to me, he is your number one second striker, your number one next to your number one striker. So I do think, you know, best 11, he's got to be up top alongside Joao Klaus.
Absolutely. So stats from him on this short time that he came over last season in the summer with our 10 games, he had 5 goals. That is tied for the team lead, and he did it in a third amount of the games. He also had 4 assists, which is tied for second most on the team in those 10 games. So he's a guy that is going to be instrumental for this team. And yes, it's tough to not have him in this preseason to really get the legs back underneath of him. But we've always talked about it, Jake. This is such a long season.
Yeah.
35 games going all the way through December. Do not worry, City fans. Once that man gets on the field, and we've known this, we've learned this the hard way the past 2 seasons, there's no need to rush this stuff. We literally have, 8 months with this guy at least, or 10 months? So Let's take it slow, let him get the groove, and then the wheels will start turning, and he will turn into an absolute train.
Absolutely. We got a question here, Justin, from Daniel on YouTube saying, anyone know an ETA for Durkin and Toyshirt? You know, personally, I don't, Justin. I don't think you do either, else you probably would have shared here. But press is coming up for the pregame press conference. I imagine that will be a question that is answered on the spot. Just given the fact that we haven't seen them, Durkin we didn't see at all in preseason. I think Toyshirt might have seen the very beginning of preseason. I'm not expecting to see Durkin. Probably this is just like my firing from the hip from experience, just watching these games over time. I'm not expecting to see Durkin for the next couple of games, right? Because he has to get integrated. You hope that he's fit, right? Maybe he's not very fit right now, even depending on the status of his injury. And then second, for Toyshirt, again, like you said, Justin, long season. We now are not razor thin at this position anymore. I do think there's a drop off in quality, of course, but it depends on who you want to throw into that spot, Justin, because I also put in this conversation Celio. You know, I think in the new formation, I could see Celio being an excellent option at second striker because, again, you have flexibility to float. If you want to run channels, you can do that. If you want to stay central, you can do that. If you want to cut in from outside, you can do that. You have to influence play and make an impact, and you just have a little more freedom than I think a Klaus might have there. So I watched him do this in preseason, and he ran rampant. And it's preseason, right? But he was doing that before he got hurt as well last season, and that was in a more confined position on the left wing. So I have him tapped as a person in general to look out for. I know you always have in your mind, Justin, but in this position is a new place for me to consider him.
No, I think this is great. I think this is only going to open up doors for Celio in this sense. Like, yeah, we have a lot of guys that are playing in these roles, but if you realize this draws other defenders to those guys as well and gives Celio more space. And you know what Celio does with more space? More confidence. We're going to see some dirty skills, and this guy takes some guys on. There's another guy that you have in here, Jake, and it's Rasmus Alm. I do think that he can be a little bit, well, talking like superlatives, kind of an X factor for us. Just because he's been with the team and he hasn't stayed healthy enough to really own a spot. And when he's in there, he does good. I would say above average, but we haven't really seen him own it yet. So I'm intrigued to see how Rasmus Alm fits in, especially when we're talking about the extras, the young guys that we've already mentioned, Makai Joyner, Caden Glover, and McSorley, just bringing in these young guys that are just only going to be a workhorse. I'm going to consider them more along the lines of like a Jose Gajima. Once you're in, you're going to prove that you're going to work harder than anybody else. Also, shout out Jordan Goodwin on the Lakers, Slu Billiken. He is absolutely, you can literally make a career on outworking people. And that's what I'm expecting out of those young guys.
Love it. Great take. Midfield. So we move off our strikers into, I've kind of separated our midfield into 3 different roles, but I expect these roles to be kind of almost interchangeable and probably very different than how we imagine them right now, given the changes in Olaf's system. But for right now, I kind of bucketed it, Justin, into like your 10s, 8s, and 6s, which is more like your attacking focused players, your hybrid players, and your more defensive minded midfield. So on the attacking side, I think I would slot Hartel, obviously. If you're not, you're crazy. But right underneath him, and I think especially pertinent right now, given the confidence and how we saw him evolve, after his time with the national team with the U.S. and then coming right back into preseason and just buzzing. Indy Vassilev, I think, is primed to get some seriously good minutes. And if it's at the 10, fine. If it's as a wingback, we'll talk about that here as well. But I think those two rounded out with maybe a potential for Ostrak to fill in, given a certain game, state, or injury.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be one that that Hartel's just pretty much going to own. And then obviously, I do think that Indy is going to find a different spot, but Hartel is going to be the heart of that, no pun intended. But I will say for Hartel, 3 goals, 7 assists in the 10 goals that he played for the team. Those 7 assists, Jake, do you know where that was on the team? Number one by 3 assists. He almost doubled the highest assist total on the team in a less than a third of a season. So this guy, when he has the ball on his feet, he is the one drawing attention to him and slotting in the attackers that we've already mentioned.
How about the hybrid role, Justin, the 8s? Leuven, I think, is your perfect example of someone that can do that, where they have that final ball, but they can also be sitting back and looking to intercept passes and clogging up passing lanes. They can do both. They're the box-to-box midfielder. Leuven, I think, is number 1 there. Watching preseason, and given how last year went when Leuven was gone for his wife's health issues that she was having, Ostrak, I think, filled in pretty admirably, but you definitely still feel a Leuven absence when he's gone. And Ostrak, then he got hurt and his whole season was over as well. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I'm not exactly sure what to expect here. I think Indy could also slot in here if needed, but for me, it's probably Leuven, Ostrak, and Indy as your more 8s or kind of box-to-box guys.
Yeah, that's why I love this, Jake, is that like as we're talking about this, you just realize how valuable Indy is. And as a guy that he's literally he could be in any of these. You even mentioned him out as a wing back, obviously, when we're playing 3 in the back, as we'll get to the defense. But like this is a guy that when we were talking about for the expansion draft is like, oh, we're going to hold on to him. I'm like, this is not a guy that is like, he can be an everyday starter, but also he can start wherever you need him to be. And not only is he that, but he's a locker room guy. I want to have a mustache like Indy. There's got to be some kind of giveaway that we do with that as well. The way he curls his stuff. This is a guy that I'm extremely excited for us this season.
Yeah, no, I am too. Moving into defensive midfield, Justin, for us, I've got Durkin Tat as our number 1 guy. Obviously, I think injury is going to hold him out of at least these first couple of games, in my opinion. It sounds like Watts has the reins in that position for now. We'll see if that really evolves that direction. Miggy Perez is with the team as well. He was on loan last season. It wasn't exactly the best situation or performance set for him. We'll see if he comes back and finds his developments taking an uptick and he can hold that position. We've got JGR, again, a guy I'm not expecting to see too much of, given he's been nowhere with preseason in terms of the surgery he had in the offseason. He was sick as well. The one to keep an eye out for is 2 things. One, we saw Morales, a trialist for us in this position during preseason, looked and acquitted himself pretty well. Nothing's come out about it yet, if we've signed him or not, or what the deal is. Could see that being a good kind of flex kind of option to play across your central midfield if you need some bodies for. Tyson Pierce as well, who we saw play some meaningful minutes for City 2 last year. He is a homegrown for us. We've heard exceptional things about this kid, and I could see him, filling in a tight spot as well. But that, to me, kind of rounds out the midfield.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is you mentioned JGR. It is a long season as well. And as we kind of talked about with the injury of Durkin, and I mean, Leuven didn't play a full season last year. I think he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go this year. But that is a guy that kind of keep an eye on, because I do think that he, as Durkin or anybody kind of ebbs and flows out of that position, he is a young guy that we definitely want to look at going forward. And yes, we didn't protect him when it went into the expansion draft, but I think that had a little bit to do with like, I don't think these other teams really knew a whole lot about him. Didn't want to take a chance on him with only 5 selections across 28 other teams. Or 29 other teams at that point. So I do think that JGR could slot in depending on where injuries fit. So don't be surprised as we go out this season if he is a guy that starts to see some regular minutes.
Let's go defense, Justin. And this one, again, you got to take with a major grain of salt, because, again, now we're in a totally different formation, and we're in a back 3, which is we played that in the entire preseason compared to our back 4 last season. Or you can call ours a back 5 now as well if you consider the wing backs as defenders. I am, for our purposes. I know they're probably more accurately midfielders. But for left wing back and right wing back, I'll take those together, Justin. I think Conrad Vollum is your number one left wing back coming in. You know, our probably our sexiest signing of this winter window, given we didn't do much of anything besides him and Baumgartel and some outgoings. And then Jay Reed, when he comes back in a couple of months here, I think he will slot in just for cover right in that role. I think he could excel as a left wing back. Some other options in this position, I think if you need to, we saw Hebert deployed there in preseason. Not a huge fan of that, so I would not advise that one. Celio, I think, could make an impact here, especially if you want to change things up, maybe off the bench and just have him absolutely light up that left flank. Indy as well, we already talked about potentially covering in at left wing back. But right wing back, Justin, is there a better situation than a right wing back situation for Thomas Totland?
No. This is one that, I mean, the man, you already saw him get up and down the field last season. With it almost seemed like we had kind of like twisted it this way to almost where he was essentially getting touchline to touchline. So this is a perfect situation for him. One thing I do want to circle back to, Jake, is you said Wallen might be the sexiest signing we had in the offseason. Olaf Melberg. Did you see this, man? Good God. I have to make sure that I'm not looking at this. I mean, he looks like a Jurgen Klopp times 12. Yeah. This guy is sexy. And so that's all I had to say there.
All right. On to the center backs, of which he is one as well, Coach Melberg. We got left center backs, and right center backs. There's going to be a lot of transition between here. It's so hard to even categorize them because there are some differences, of course, in who would play a left center back maybe versus a right center back and who might be better tailored for a center back. But for me, I would say Horn, Baumgartel, Wenzel are my left center backs of choice, followed up by Nilsson and Yarrow at center back, maybe JGR if they want to give him minutes in that spot. And then right center back, I'm probably leaning heavily on Kessler and then Hebert as well if they want to deploy him in that back three. So that's how I would probably roll out in terms of the center back depth. But again, there's going to be so much interchanging between those. Who even really knows of the lineup? But I think that's the sense of who you got.
Yeah, I would say on this, Jake, it's going to be Horn on that left center back, and Nilsson, and then over to the right is Kessler. I think there's something there that, and maybe it's tough because I really do think that Baumgartel could be a starter on this team as well. Yeah. It should at some point. So I will say that it's not just going to be your three mainstay guys. I could see us kind of rotating that kind of not just per minutes, like, oh, now it's the third game, so now you're out and this guy's in. Yeah. I really do think though it's like against different teams how we want to line it up based on playing style or who the attacker is and things of that nature. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a very consistent starting lineup in the back five.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Justin. I think I would like to hammer that home and say, I think we learned the hard way last season. I think you either rotate on your own or you have rotation done to you. And I think being proactive about this is probably a much better call. And I do think that Olaf will probably heed that advice. People we haven't really talked too much about, maybe just a little bit of a mention here and there in our depth were McSorley, Wenzel, Glover, Joyner, Tyson Pierce. Didn't mention any of our draft picks because we haven't heard if anyone's signed, right? You don't just get signed because you get drafted. So for Heiskalainen, Zelensky, who both were with the team in preseason, if I don't hear anything, I guess I would assume City 2. If anything, maybe Zelensky I could see getting a flyer here because right wing back we could use some depth on if they're going to play Watts in central midfield. So he'd be the guy right behind Toland if he goes down. So that'd be my call for the draftees. And again, just just stay tuned to see what City announces with those contracts. If they exercise those options for some of those players on trial, if they pick up some City 2 contracts, we'll probably know here very, very soon. But Justin, best starting 11, and we'll have to kind of tailor this as we get into the Colorado kind of specific piece of this. But I think your best 11, my take was Berkey, Horn, Nilsson, Kessler, Vollum, Leuven, Hartel, Durkin, Totland, and then Klaus and Teuscher up top. That's my, if everything is healthy, everyone's good, we're firing, that's my best 11 available.
Which is absolutely insane to think about, Jake, just because you think about the names that are getting left off of this. And that's, I would say, Celio coming off the bench, and then you got an Indy coming off the bench, a finisher like Simon Betcher, and all of these guys. So, and obviously it's not one where you're really talking about the defenders that are going to be coming in there, but then we're talking about a Baumgartel and a guy that should be a consistent starter on this team. We got a Jay Reed when he's healthy. We're talking about Totland, this being a great formation for him. Jay Reed can get up and back. So this is a very deep team, and I'm very excited about it. I really hope that we're starting to see it mesh, and we're not going to have one of these like key guys get injured, like knock on wood. I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say, can you imagine if one of our main guys got injured? And I'm not going to even use the name because we never even had we had a guy. Yeah. Okay. I'm done.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. We know where you're going. And you break with storylines. Can we stay healthy this year? Are we going to keep that same form that we hit in stride last year towards the end? Will Olaf's back three be the new lifeblood of the team? Can Berkey keep this team on the tracks and make sure that he's standing up on his head and keeping us in some of these games sometimes? So can we rely on him a little bit less than we did last season? So many different storylines to think about in the season, but we always like to break down, Justin, on these previews, our superlatives or our predictions for some of the players. Golden Ball, Justin. Here are my nominees for Golden Ball for 2025. And that just for everyone listening, that's just MVP of the team. For me, I have Leuven, I have Hartel, and I have Durkin. I think Durkin was arguably the guy last year, considering his impact, his availability. He only missed a couple games in the season. Hartel, if you gave him a full season, probably would have been that guy. But what do you think, Justin? Anyone I'm missing here that you could see? Obviously, I didn't put any strikers in here.
Yeah, I was going to say you could put Toy Shirt. We're still waiting to see kind of how that goes with him from a minutes perspective. But I'm going to go with Hartel on this. I think a guy that's coming in having 7 assists in 10 games is a guy that we want to have the ball at his feet. So that's my guess. My pick. Who's yours?
I'm going Leuven.
Okay.
I think a healthy Leuven gelling and having chemistry with all of his German, Patriots and just the background. And I don't know, just like there's something innate about this, like, your countrymen and like having a relationship beforehand. I'm hoping it really just translates to the field. And we missed him last season when he was hurt. And I really hope he can have a full available season this year. And I think it's going to be scary. Golden Boot. I put my nominees in here, Justin, for Toy Shirt, Klaus, and Celio. Maybe a little bit out of the woods on that one, but I don't know. I just have a really good feeling about Celio. Obviously, we're a little bit biased here for him, but what do you think there, Justin? Anyone else you'd add to that mix? Obviously, I didn't put Betcher on here.
Yeah, so what I would say on this, Jake, is a safe bet for Golden Boot is like a Klaus because he's going to get the minutes, or maybe a Toy Shirt when he does. I would say if you're going to go goals per 90, I'm going with Simon Betcher again. This guy just can finish right when he gets on the field, and he only needs one touch of the ball. So I would say per 90, I'm going with a Betcher, but I'll go different than you. I'm going to go Toy Shirt on this. I think He gets up, and I think he scores a good 9 goals this season. And I don't see Klaus really having the breakout that we're really expecting or wanting him to have.
All right. I've got Klaus on that. I've been high on him, and I really hope that he brings it this season. Golden Glove. I had to think so much about this, Justin. I was really torn on what to say or really do here, but my mind and my heart are both telling me Berkey. What do you think?
Breakout player of the year. You have as nominees here an Indy, and a Celio, and a Wallem. I'm just going to skip right over your little jokes. My breakout player is going to be Wallem. And that's because I don't even know if we have it on here, but a comeback player of the year is going to be Indy. We're going to put that over there. So, because I don't really think Indy's a breakout, because I really do think that he just didn't get a full season last year. So he's kind of already broken out. I'm going to go with Wallem because I think it's an extremely exciting signing for us. And obviously you could say any of the guys that we brought in the summer last year, like they could be a breakout, but I'm really going to go with Wallem on this one. What are your thoughts?
I'd second that on Wallem. He looked exceptional in the short sample size we had in preseason. If that translates at all into that position and the kickoff to our season, I'm fully supportive of that. And we don't have comeback player of the year, but I think in the MLS comeback player of the year, if Celio can have a pretty decent season, putting up numbers like he did in the early part of last season, I think he's got a shoe in to be a big nominee in that, not just our ball watching superlatives, but the actual MLS comeback player of the year. I mean, his leg was hanging off like 6 months ago, and we saw it in preseason. That dude looks ready, and he's talking about how hungry he is.
He is hungry and gearing it to have a Kim Kardashian-esque comeback.
Okay. I like that. You bring in the pop culture here, Justin. The Rock Award or final superlative. Actually, I skipped filthiest player. Who's the dirtiest player we have? I know you put Celio in here. I agree. I think Celio he's got the trickiest footwork. I think Hartel also kind of has a little bit of that. Like, it's maybe a little bit less so like the nasty dribbles, but I think he can do that as well. But the passes and the vision and the touches, he's just got that step above. I feel like that pedigree that you don't you're not really used to seeing sometime in MLS. So I might go Hartel on just the guy that gives you those jaw-dropping moments. And you've got Celia here. So I'm not going to argue against Celia. I mean, obviously, the guy is dirty.
There's two different types of dirty when it comes to that. I would say Hartel's not the guy that's going to beat a guy one-on-one duncing him, but you're going to see some impressive flicks, no-look passes, absolute bombs from Hartel. So I get where you're going with that. The Rock Award, so the strong defender. Honestly, Jake, one that you actually don't have here, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to switch this up because you have Nilsson and Kessler and Nilsson here.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with Mr. Chris Durkin. Mr. Chris Durkin is going to come in and be my absolute rock.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that we need. When you think about a very important position on this, yes, we used to play the 4-2-3-1 where we'd have the two guys in front of the four and it's like, oh, yeah, they're doing their job, but if they get through, we still got four right behind them. Now we're only have three technically behind them because I do think we're going to get caught up a couple times this season where you have a Wallem and a total too far up, and we're going to need Chris Durkin to be that guy that absolutely ends a play. And I could see him ending somebody's career with how hard that man can tackle. I'm going with Chris Durkin as my rock.
I like that. I'm going to go with Nilsson as my rock of the year, and that might come as a surprise for a lot of folk. If he can stay healthy, I know that dude seems to be made of glass, and we've joked about it plenty of times, but you know that he's chomping at the bit to have a full season. He's getting paid a lot of money. I know he wants to make do, and he wants to impress. He's shown us glimpses of just what he can be, and then injury disrupts. I think he's primed to have a superb season, and I think a back three, especially with him being jammed in the middle of that center back sandwich, is perfect for his role. I think that he will excel there. His line-breaking passes, his aerial duels, this guy's got it. And if he can stay healthy, I think he will become the rock in our defense. But I like your take on Durkin, too. I think he was such an important piece for us last year.
I like that pick real quick, just because I do feel like everybody kind of has a bad taste in their mouth or a connotation around Mr. Nilsson because he has not been able to stay healthy. This guy's a professional athlete. He's a human. I'm excited to see him actually get some full minutes and stay healthy this season. I think it's something that he's really going to be focused on, and I would love to see it because of his background coming from overseas and knowing what he had done over there and what he wants to do over here. Let's see if we can get a full season out of this guy.
So get out of the players, Justin, into team predictions for this year. So looking at points, what do
MLS
the
Cup.
guys need?
Oh, shit. Sorry.
What do the guys need? Wins, draws, losses this season. I looked at points. We're going to need probably at least 47 points to qualify for the wild card this year. Just going off of last year as a benchmark, 50 if you're talking about round one guaranteed in the West. The East was 40 points for wild card and 47 for round one, respectively. So a little bit lower bar there. There were some runaway teams, though, in that East. Looking at how it breaks down into wins, losses, and draws for us, we did the same thing last year and actually ended up pretty close, I would say. So 34 games in the season. We're going to need probably at least equal to or greater than 12 wins in this season, most likely, because no team under that got into the playoffs in 2024. Losses, less than or equal to 14 of those bad boys, since no team with more than that got into the playoffs in 2024. You obviously want to limit these and also limit the damage when you do lose, because goal difference makes a big difference when it comes down to the second playoff tiebreaker after win count. And then the draws kind of just fill in the cracks. So if you're doing 12 wins, 14 losses, you're looking at another 12 draws, and that would get you like right up to that line. But that I kind of wanted to draw your line in the sand of like 12 wins, you're in, right? 12 wins, you're looking really good. Less than 14 losses, you're looking really good. And then the draws are just kind of whatever, somewhere in the middle there. But Justin, let's talk about what we think in that, personally for our predictions. I've got mine here, and I've got us finishing the season at 15 wins, 11 losses, and 8 draws, which brings us to 53 points on the season, which probably would get us a high-end away team spot in round one, a guaranteed round one berth, or knocking on a home team seating, depending on how that season's trending. So obviously a big uptick from year over year for us. And I think the win category and limiting your draws and turning some of those into wins, or not, giving up the leads like we were so poor at last year and miscontrolling games, I think that will hit the win column pretty hard.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Jake. And I think generally, I'll say what I have us at 14, 11, and 9 here, 51 points. What I generally am expecting, I don't really care how it shakes out between the wins, losses, draws. I would much less have less draws this year because, Jesus, that was frustrating last year. But I really do think that our realistic ceiling, because obviously the ceiling, again, is first in the West. I think that's obviously every team's goal. I think our realistic ceiling here, Jake, is getting fourth in the West and it's just sneaking into that home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs. I think our realistic floor would then be the 8th spot and playing in the wild card. I would say so. Generally, what my hope is us kind of going into the final game of the regular season, fighting and having a chance to sneak into the home field advantage spot. So being in the 5th seed or already being in the 4th seed and then being able to fight for that at the end. I don't want to be fighting for a playoff spot in the last week or two. I want to be fighting for home field advantage, and I think that's truly where we're going to land.
Yeah, and I think I like your idea of the floor and the ceiling, and then like kind of the most realistic, because I think if on the floor comment, if we're fighting for a playoff spot on decision day, I feel like something's probably gone awry in the season, where like you're not probably happy with how things have progressed. But again, playoffs have got to be the goal. How you get there doesn't matter. It's where you end up. Some storylines, Justin, I wrote down just kind of quick thinking about things to keep an eye on as fans and listeners as we go into this season is, can we re-find that end of season form from last year? Can we re-find our goal scoring boots, which just went missing for basically like the first half of last year, where people are like, hey, expected goals. I was even saying, hey, it's going to turn. It's going to turn because we're producing the right metrics and that those should produce goals eventually. And it just didn't for us. But I think most importantly, Justin, on the defensive side of the ball, we've got to sturdy it up, man. 63 goals conceded last year. It was abysmal, and less late goals at halftime and full time. Those cheeky, needless, sloppy goals to give up. I think, Justin, I'll put a line right here in the sand. We've got to concede less than 50 goals this season. I think you've got to tremendously clean this up. And I think with a defensive-minded coach that has been known for how much of a rock that he was in his career, maybe you can't say as much for his coaching career. Can that translate onto the field for us?
At first, when he said under 50, because I was just like, Jesus, Jake, that's quite a swing considering we gave up 63. Yep. We gave up the sixth most goals in the MLS last season. Honestly, 50 is not a bad goal to have. When you look at this, Seattle only gave up 35 last year. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 teams that give up less than 50 goals. I love that goal for us is to give up less than 50 goals.
Yeah, I'm on it. And other things to keep an eye on, more about play for us. Control. We hear the word control. It's going to be a key word to look out for this year in press conferences. Olaf saying it on podcasts, on our radio spots, controlling games, whether that's in possession and buildup, or also to release pressure. We talked about how guys just feel like they're playing with grenades at times, or, hanging on to games, and we just cannot possess to save our lives. Also, in-game adjustments. Can you have a coach like Olaf that can change on the fly if you have to, if the game state is not going your direction? And I think finally it's health and the overall successful, final full integration of all of our new players and generating a team identity and chemistry that is just hell to deal with on the field. So ending this, Justin, before we go into a brief preview for our first game against Colorado, for me, what I define as success this season, expectation for me, the bar is round 1. If you don't hit round 1, that's a failure of a season for me. If you want to succeed and excel in this season, I think you've got to win the matchup in round 1. And I'm not saying a match, I'm saying the matchup. So the best of 3, assuming that's the same format this year, I think that is, for me, that's a successful season because it's got to be incremental progress. You've got to keep showing, year over year progress. And for us, without pro rel and all these different things, you've got to show progress in these competitions. And maybe another example you could show, Justin, I put a little side note is here. Maybe you make a deep run, the U.S. Open Cup. Does that also show some success as well?
Yeah. So Jake, I'll make it even a little bit tougher. I think you either win expectation. So you have meet the expectation is make it into round 1. I think the expectation is to win round 1 at this point. This is going to be our 3rd season. Yes, it's probably a little bit of a lofty goal after the season we just had. However, now we're looking at this. Games are more spaced out. We don't have as many games. It's either that, or if we don't win, if we win or make a deep run of the U.S. Open Cup, then I'm kind of with you. But if we don't make a deep run in the U.S. Open Cup, we better be winning a first round here. I do not want to have another season of mediocrity of we were kind of on the edge, or we won 2 games in the U.S. Open Cup. Give me semifinals of the U.S. Open Cup or give me a first-round win into the second round of the MLS playoffs.
I like it. Give me semis or give me death, Justin says here on Ball Watching.
Jake, quick shout-out to Josh Black, watching from Scotland. I just looked it up. It's 2:20 a.m. in Scotland.
Ain't no rest,
dude.
Scott.
Thanks.
Ain't no rest. Absolutely. And hold on. I think there was a big day for the Scots today. Didn't
oh boy.
Didn't Celtic? Oh, they drew Bayern, but it wasn't enough in the overall tie because Bayern had the aggregate. But big draw for Celtic to keep Bayern at bay in the Champions League. I digress. You've heard our predictions now for the goals for this season, but who's the first team in our way? It's the Rapids. It's Kroenke. It's a spot that I think we have an opportunity here to pick up a good 3 points at home. 2024 for Colorado. They were and grabbed the last guaranteed spot in round one with 50 points. They lost 5-0, 4-1 in a smattering on behalf of the LA Galaxy, eventual MLS Cup winners. They had a high goals for output. They were a good goal scoring team, scoring 61, which is in the top 10 for them. But they also conceded a lot at 60. So a net goal difference of 1 with goals against at 60. So they kind of sputtered their way into the last kind of run-in of the season, but they got there, right? They had enough points to sit on. And I think in the end, it kind of bit them in the arse as they got into the playoffs, just got trounced. But something I wanted to call out here, Justin, that's pertinent for us. 2 things. We lost 4-0, 3-1 to these guys in the regular season last year. But Colorado had 10 losses on the road. Only Kansas and wooden spoon winners, the San Jose Earthquakes at the time, had more. Can we take advantage of that here at home?
Absolutely. And a big point to this, Jake, is these guys are kicking off in 34 minutes against LAFC in the Champions Cup. So this is one that they're going to already be coming in on short rest and coming into a frigid St. Louis. Yeah, they're from Colorado. I get it, but I'm excited to give them a warm welcome into St. Louis and send them right back where they came from to Crump Town.
They got some good players. I will say Jordy Mihailovic, probably the number one people think about. He's an American, a U.S. men's national team, international. 11 goals, 10 assists last year. So doing it on both ends. They had Rafael Navarro put in 15 goals in 2024 for them. Cole Bassett's a pretty sturdy winger for them, I would say. They just acquired Josh Atencio, a young talent from Seattle, in a cash-based transfer for the cash for players market I talked about last episode. They also acquired, I might pull a Justin here, Chidozie Owazium from Cincinnati, who is a probably number 1 center back for them now. He is going to play a lot of minutes. This guy can play some sick balls out of the back as well. He's got some very, very good vision with his passing. And also Zach Steffen between the sticks for them. Obviously a men's national team guy for us as well. So they've got some good players. Do I look at that roster and I think, especially on day one, that we should not give them a run for their money and that we should probably be at least equal to them when it comes to odds? I'm curious to see what the bookmakers say about this game, Justin, given it's game one, no sample sizes. We don't have form to even think about here. I have a feeling that City could be favored in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to be favored here, Jake. And I do think the reason for that is our Hoffman brothers starting 11 as we get into this. And we've already mentioned the Hoffman brothers, Jake. If you guys didn't catch us at the beginning of the show, we will mention it again, and we will be putting up a picture for it. 2 free tickets to this home opener on Saturday. You need to go, and we will give you all the details. You need to like and follow Hoffman Brothers on Instagram and also follow them on Facebook, and you have a chance to win those 2 free tickets on Saturday.
Yeah, so starting 11, Justin, we talked about the starting 11 that we would have if everyone was available. You don't. So for this 11 for Saturday against the Rapids at home at Energizer Park, going to be cold, but the house will be buzzing. I've got in my 11, Berkey, Horn, Nilsson, Kessler. So I think for me, a first choice back 3 still. And then I've got in front of them, Vollum, Leuven, Hartel, Watts, Totland. So I think almost everyone there is preferable besides Watts. You'd swap out for Dirk in an ideal world. And then I've got Klaus and Betcher starting up front. Can they bring the Klaus Giacchini, chemistry and just the spark that they brought when they were here in year 1 together? And we haven't seen too much Betcher Klaus. We saw a little bit at the end of last season, but not enough to make, I think, a full call on. So I think they're going to give it a go here and see if those two can just run tag team, Bash Brothers all over Colorado.
I'd like to see it because we already see Betcher finish them here in preseason. I'm not going to argue with you on the starting 11. It's obviously going to be a brand new one for us. I'm not really knowing what all happened down in preseason. So my goal for this game, Jake, and then I'll go into my prediction and then toss it back to you. But my goal for this game, score first. City Park. We've been waiting for this game. It's already going to be a little bit cold. You cannot let this Colorado team take the air out of City Park. Yeah. Let's be absolutely amped. Let's put one in the back of the net, keep it warm, keep people energized at Energizer Park. Sorry, not City Park. And then my prediction for this, a nice 2-0 dub. I think this is one that we can get out of here and get a clean sheet. Start Mr. Roman Berkey's season off right with all of these possible transfer rumors and other teams wanting him. No. He's happy here. He's sticking between the sticks. He's in your head. We're going to win this game 2-0. What are your thoughts?
I like the clean sheet. I wasn't as optimistic on mine. I said 3-1, which, you would definitely bite your hand off for a 3-1 as well. But I think there'll be goals in this game. I do think goals will be a feature of our team this year. And will it be a better form of defense for us by being able to just put more goals past the other team? Maybe like it kind of was in year one. So I'm saying 3-1. I think an early goal, like you said, score first is important. I think just scoring a goal in the first 15 and preferably, praise be his name, Joao Klaus. Can you imagine just getting that monkey off your back? Like everyone's talking, you're in that contract year where people are starting to doubt you. People, say, let's wrap up the contract, send them packing, and you score a banger. And I don't even care if it's a banger. You just put one in the back of the net right off the start for the season, the first 15. The roof or the lack of the roof would come off. I cannot wait. So that's my prediction. I'm going to probably spring a little bit here on Klaus. But you know who's not going to be underdog in this game, Justin? I think it's not going to be us because all this energy, everything that City Parks it's going to take time to get rid of the City Park and sub in with Energizer Park. But there goes my transition into underdog. But obviously, I don't think we're going to be the underdog in this matchup. But it is cool to be a fan of or using underdog because it is the place to play. If you are a fan looking to cash in on all of your favorite athletes' performances, it's available in 35 states now, including Missouri. There's no waiting now. The Underdog is something that operates here in Missouri already. You download the app, and when you do, make sure you use our link, which is available on social media, or use our promo code BALLWATCHING, all one word, to sign up. And it's so darn easy, man. It's higher or lower on any of the projections that you see for all of your favorite athletes. And Justin, might I say, across almost like every major sport. Like they have esports in here. It's crazy.
I absolutely love it, Jake. This has been something that I've been all over and getting extremely excited for. You already mentioned it, that they do not have the options up yet for the City game. However, these will be up and running later in this week, and we will be posting them all over our show. You should be happy to be able to tail us on these and look out for our entries because it is something that we are extremely excited about.
We are. So a lot more to come on the Underdog piece. We are definitely going to put some MLS entries together and let you all follow us. You might even see our faces in the app if that doesn't totally turn you off. But you can follow us. You can tail our entry and actually ride with us in these entries and hopefully make some money. I mean, who doesn't like that? So we can win on the field and we can win off the field. I mean, come on. It's the best of both worlds. Underdog's bringing it to you. Underdog is a fantastic, fantastic place to have fun and use your skill to win some extra moolah. But Justin, I can't wait for the home opener. It's going to be awesome. I can't believe we're only a couple days away from it now. And I think this season's going to start off with a bang.
Yeah, big shout out to everybody that's been in here with us. I know everybody's just as excited about this season as we are. If you see us at City or Energizer Park, God, we're getting close. If you see us there or at the pitch, get to the pitch prior to this game. You know it's going to be cold outside, but it's going to be nice and warm inside. Get a hot Irish coffee. It's not time for the frozen Irish coffees yet, Jake. Get a hot Irish coffee at the pitch prior to the game. You can even walk out with it and then take it straight up into the Energizer Park, right at the lines, and you got to throw it away. But then you can go into Energizer Park and root on City. If you see us at the game, give us a shout out. See us at the pitch.
Awesome. Well, everyone enjoy. It's officially match day week. We're in the run-in. Preseason's over. It's in the rear view. Let the games begin 2025. We are all in, and we are all for City.
All for City.